Part 43. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 431. How did the Minotaur monster come into being? Was it naturally produced or artificially produced? Yejing was very curious. If it was naturally produced, it should be that the cattle-like creatures were infected and mutated by human genes. But if it was artificially produced, it would be a bit scary. As the lowest-end monster in the world of Warcraft, the Minotaur began to attack the walls of the demon city as cannon fodder. They need to open the way for subsequent monsters. The bull roared continuously, holding a lacquered white axe, destroying the walls of the demon city over and over again. The offensive and defensive battle began. This was not Yejing's task. He and Gray just watched from the sidelines, looking for a gap to leave the city. As the commander-in-chief of the South City of the 23rd District of the Demon City, Xuanhuan had rich experience in large-scale combat. Even in the face of the impact of thousands of troops, he remained calm. Xuanhuan took out a big knife from his crotch, stood high on the wall, pointed directly at the thousands of monsters, and roared loudly. All-out attack. A loud roar startled Yejing, who was stunned and couldn't help but look at Xuanhuan. All-out attack. Did you say the wrong thing? How could a few thousand people attack countless monsters? However, after Xuanhuan gave the order, he took the lead, jumped down from the city wall, and rushed towards the monsters. You are an idiot. Yejing's eyes widened, his feet moved, his figure flashed, and disappeared from the spot, and he pulled Xuanhuan up again. What are you doing? Xuanhuan stabilized his body, turned back and glared at Yejing. Director Ye, I hope you don't interfere with my mission. Are you crazy? Just rush down like this. Yejing's face was dark. It didn't matter what happened to him, but there were other practitioners. If he rushed down, what would happen to other practitioners? Xuanhuan is in the extraordinary realm, but others are not. Xuanhuan snorted, humph, just a bunch of Minotaur bastards. I stopped considering them as monsters decades ago. Is this guy a fool? No wonder he was only assigned to District 23 instead of District 13. With his IQ, if he was assigned to District 13, wouldn't he start to collapse from the inside? This guy's brain is all about muscle. Yejing sighed a little tired. There's nothing to say to such a person, just use force downward arrow. Yejing took out his director's mithril card, shook it in front of Xuanhuan, and said seriously, I am now taking over the South City of District 23 as a federal director, but don't worry, I don't want any credit, this is also for my mission. To be honest, this little credit is nothing in his eyes. This. Xuanhuan's face sank, and a lot of pictures instantly appeared in his mind. Majesty, power, disruption, destruction, assassination, shirking, responsibility. Although he wanted to resist, if he wanted to continue to stay in the Federation, he couldn't talk back to his boss. It's okay to transfer the command, but all mistakes will be borne by Director Ye alone. Xuanhuan stated his conditions. No problem. Yejing took over the command from Xuanhuan and looked down along the city wall. Well, isn't it just Warcraft? It's a small matter, a small scene. This kind of scene is nothing on Pluto. Have you played MMORPG? Yejing suddenly asked Xuanhuan. Love mother, oh, fart G. Xuanhuan shook his head in confusion. What about real-time strategy? Tower defense? Role-playing games? National war games? Yejing asked again. What? Simulated battlefield? Xuanhuan asked. No, it's okay. Yejing shook his head. He hadn't even played online games, and he dared to command operations. I was once the commander-in-chief of National War Online Games. Yejing thought for just a few seconds before giving an order to a row of practitioners waiting for orders. All Earth-type practitioners, take 3 steps forward, and the others take 3 steps back. After a slight pause, the other practitioners looked at Wang Hu, and found that Wang Hu had no other expression except a gloomy face. Then, more than 400 practitioners took 3 steps forward, and the others took 3 steps back in a scattered manner. 400. Ye Jing murmured, should that be enough? He nodded to the many practitioners and said, please build a layer of earth wall outside the city wall to isolate the Minotaurs and delay time. A row of Earth-type practitioners standing at the front responded with practical actions. Groups of Earth-type spiritual energy gathered from all around, and the overwhelming gray sand condensed in front of them, forming a 1-meter thick earth wall at a very fast speed, like armor, spread on the city wall. The solid earth wall covered the long city wall in a few seconds. If they were asked to play MC, would they be able to reach this speed? Ye Jing was the only one who treated this offensive and defensive battle as a game. But perhaps only in this way can we break out of fixed thinking and find the possibility of leaving the city in a limited time. When the earth wall appeared, the Minotaur's offensive obviously slowed down. The axe in the bull's hand smashed against the earth wall, blowing up pieces of sand and dust. The monsters behind did not stop, constantly attacking the Minotaur team, trampling out the foul smell of blood. In a limited space, the rioting monsters don't care about the lives of the low-level Tauren. The hellfire that scares them is burning behind them. Whether they can save their own lives depends on whether they can rush into the magic city. The higher monsters stepped on the lower monsters stepped on the Minotaurs, and the Minotaurs slammed the city wall, forming a cycle. Just a layer of earth wall cannot completely withstand the hammer blows of hundreds of thousands of Tauren. In just a moment, the earth wall built by hundreds of practitioners was smashed into pieces, and the lowest on the ground even raised the ground by dozens of centimeters. However, this situation was expected by Ye Jing. After all, these practitioners are only in the underground palace realm, and their spiritual energy is not very strong. It is already good to be able to stop them for a moment. Moreover, he has follow-up plans. Ye Jing glanced under the city wall. When he saw that the earthen wall was almost completely falling off, he directly changed the order. Earth practitioners retreat, water practitioners step forward. It is forbidden by the law, these are the practitioners. Practitioners are not like ordinary people. When faced with danger, they will panic, and their brains will be confused. They were able to advance to the next level only after going through many tests and even life threats. In their eyes, time is real life and not a second can be wasted. As soon as Ye Jing finished speaking, a row of earth-type cultivators retreated, and another row of drainage-type cultivators stepped forward. Ye Jing waved his hand, sprinkle water. Mix the mud. The previous earth-based practitioners drained away the nearby earth-based spiritual energy, and this time it was the turn of the water-based practitioners. Zirui of water, when the water spiritual energy gathered here, the air nearby became moist, and a faint sense of freshness came to the face. The originally dry face was moistened with a layer of mist water drops. Along with the gathering of water spiritual energy, a layer of dark clouds covered the sky. The secret technique was released, and above the dark clouds, the energy gathered into water, which instantly turned into heavy rain falling from the sky. Blah blah blah. There was a ruckus. The heavy rain washed away the foul smell of blood in the air and washed away the dirty body. The original loess on the ground mixed with the rainwater, forming a muddy swamp, completely restricting the movement of the Tauren at the front. Is this the legendary secret technique of fusion? The inexperienced Zhao Hanbang on the side was dumbfounded. He had been walking alone and had no idea that Reiki could be played like this. Gray on the other side gave Zhao Horizontal a look of disdain. It's very common. This is just an ordinary combination secret method. The aura of the two elements is intertwined to form a new effect. This method of using spiritual energy has been spread throughout Blue Star decades ago. Only country boys like you who came from nowhere don't know about it. Precisely because it is a very common combination secret method, it does not exist in the mind of Wang Hu, who is in the extraordinary realm. Yejing nodded and said, "This is just the beginning. Once all the combinations are completed, it should still be possible to delay for a few hours. Only." Yejing couldn't help but sigh. There were still too few people. If he was given 1 million practitioners, he could spread from the bottom of the Demon City to the Kilin Mountains. But now, the muddy swamp is only paved to the bottom of the city, and the only restricted Turin are only tens of thousands, which is not enough to see. And Yejing raised his head. In the sky, the black flying lizard beasts were still watching. I don't know if they were commanded by high-level monsters or something. They just stayed in the sky and did not move. Although the flying monsters put a lot of pressure on them, they also had trump cards that were useless. More than a dozen energy columns are in standby mode, the energy in them is full, and operators are standing next to them. As long as Yejing gives the order, 10 cannons are waiting for the group of monsters. Not spectacular. The Turin stuck in the muddy swamp were stepped on, and the Turin behind were still piling up one after another. Tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands, when a huge amount of life is piled in. The muddy swamp formed by the earth cultivators and water cultivators was completely filled. Directly use large numbers of Turin lives to break the spell. It's so violent, I'm willing to give in. Yejing sighed in his heart, you guys are awesome. It's been about half an hour, neither too long nor too short, just take it step by step. The muddy swamp had no effect at all. Large numbers of Turin seemed to be crazy. They piled their bodies into a cow wall and climbed towards the top of the city wall. The effect was gone. Yejing calmly started to speak again. Are there any ice practitioners? All ice practitioners come forward. The water practitioners retreated in unison, and a few seconds later, dozens of ice practitioners stood out from the formation. 33. That's a lot. Yejing counted the number of people and felt a little disappointed. Start freezing. Freeze the Turin first. If you have enough energy, freeze the city wall as well. In fact, they knew what to do without Yejing saying anything. Ice practitioners are mutants of the water system. They are rare in number but very powerful in combat. In the blink of an eye, the snowflakes fell, and the flawless six-petal snow fell from the sky. The moist water droplets froze into ice cubes in an instant. Snowflakes and ice shards froze to the ground, and the muddy swamp was instantly frozen for thousands of miles, covered in white flowers. The Turin who were originally struggling in the muddy swamp could not move, and they were all frozen into ice sculptures. These are snowflakes condensed by spiritual energy. Wherever the snowflakes go, everything under the underground palace will turn into ice sculptures, without exception. Not only that, the cold air was oppressive, and the icy frost swept across the entire southern city. The white cold air covered the city walls and condensed into ice crystals. The crystal clear ice crystals look very dazzling under the sunlight. Obediently, a city wall was frozen. But although the ice system has super restrictive power, it is very fragile, especially after the energy is dispersed, it can be said to be broken at a touch. In just a few minutes, the ice crystals that had frozen hundreds of thousands of Turin had already loosened, and it seemed that they would break out of the ice soon. Phase 3 will soon become Phase 4. After Yejing thought for a while, he made a decision. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, what else? If water and fire are incompatible, wood is useless, so the only choice is to add gold first. Ice practitioners retreat, gold practitioners step forward. The metal system is the most common system, accounting for the largest proportion among the 5 elements. When Yejing gave the order, the eager gold cultivators took a few steps forward. Their sheer number made the entire city wall tremble. There are nearly 2,000 people. Oh my God! No wonder Blue Star's copper smelting industry is so developed. It turns out there are so many smelting workers. This number has almost caught up with physical practitioners. Yejing didn't panic when he saw this amount and waved his hand proudly. Go. Feel free to play. The sky full of golden light gathered from all around, and the inexhaustible golden energy knocked away all the surrounding spiritual energy. The golden light fell, and the originally loose ice sculpture was instantly covered with a layer of golden light, and the translucent ice crystals were covered with a thick gold film. Film Maniac is online. I saw that all the Turan ice sculptures were covered with gold powder, like bronze figures, completely sealed. Are you still fussy? Rows of golden Turan statues piled up below the city wall. There is no room. Moreover, this golden sculpture has been processed many times and is very practical. It is not like a muddy swamp, and Turan who fall into it will be trampled. It is not like a crystal ice sculpture that loosens and disappears in a blink of an eye. This is a real golden eagle with extraordinary weight. This should be able to block it for a while, right? Yejing squinted his eyes and muttered to himself. Their purpose is not to kill all the monsters in front of them, this is unrealistic. It is enough to hold them off for more than 3 hours to buy enough preparation time for the rear. By the way, I still have my own tasks, right? Yejing thought to himself. Just when the battle situation was at a standstill. Suddenly there was a strong wind in the sky, and a huge shadow crossed the horizon. Suddenly, a group of flying monsters staying in the sky. It's moving. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 432. Seizing the sky is always the most necessary step in air combat. The sky of the southern city of District 23 has been occupied by lizard beasts first, and they don't have any units that can fight in the air. No, there are enemy, tens of thousands of lizard beasts. Our side, gray. Yejing looked up, and when he saw the changes in the group of lizard monsters in the sky, he glanced at Gray beside him and pursed his lips at him. It's your turn to play. Ah. Oh. Gray was slightly stunned, and subconsciously spread his forewings, but found that things were not as simple as he thought. What do you mean it's my turn to play? What to play for? 1 against 100,000? Are you asking me to die? Sorry, just kidding. Yejing shrugged to liven up the atmosphere. After all, the impact of the flying units in the sky on them is still very stressful. At this time, they still have a few thousand physical cultivators left, and physical cultivators can play a huge role in air combat. For example, they can bend the bow to shoot the eagle, and throw stones weighing hundreds of kilograms into the sky as fixed shells. They can also shoot heavy arrows that are more than 10 meters long. Unfortunately, they have manpower but no material resources. Not to mention bows and arrows, there are no stones. Huh. Bows and arrows? Stones. Yejing suddenly thought of something and turned his head to look at the elemental practitioners. Gold practitioners can make bows and arrows, and earth practitioners can condense heavy stones and make them on the spot. Isn't this perfect? Not only that, they now have more than a dozen anti-aircraft energy columns, which can also cause heavy damage to lizard beasts. So, it's not time to retreat yet. The tens of thousands of lizard beasts staying in the sky seem to have received some orders. After howling, they all leaned down and rushed down. Before Yejing could speak, Wang Hu, who had been thirsty for a long time, suddenly jumped into the sky. As expected of a physical practitioner, he jumped hundreds of meters with his legs and went up to the sky with one somersault. Too impulsive. Yejing was about to call for a recall, but the words came to his lips and he swallowed them again. Forget it, anyway, he is a superhuman boss, his body is like a diamond, he can't die. They still have some high-end combat power that has not been released. Yejing originally wanted to wait for the high-level monsters to attack the city wall before releasing them, but it seems that there is no chance. The other superhuman bosses who were sent here couldn't hold back. After seeing Xuanhuan flying into the sky and Yejing didn't stop him, they all rushed towards the flying monsters at the same time. 8 immortals crossing the sea, each showing their magical powers. Yejing rubbed his aching head. This kind of person who doesn't listen to orders is really a headache. He sighed, turned to Zhao Danggong and said, "You go and notify the energy turrets stationed nearby, let them aim at the sky and fire." "I go? Me alone? There are more than a dozen of them." Zhao Danggong glared. "It's very slow for him to be alone. When will he be notified?" "Nonsense, of course you are the only one," Yejing said as if it was a matter of course. "You can open the space, can't you just open it all the way?" Zhao Danggong's face was dark. "Don't you regard my life as your life?" But he didn't say much and took action. As for the correct way to use the golden shovel, the closer the distance, the less life is consumed. He thought he still had a lot of life and could use it recklessly. After Zhao Danggong cut the space, he went in alone. Originally, Yejing wanted Gray to go out, but he thought about it and rejected this idea. His feathers are so precious, if the lizards eat them all, wouldn't it be a waste? And Gray's help will be needed when he waits for an opportunity to leave the city. Taking advantage of a group of bloody and extraordinary big men rushing into the sky to block the lizard beast from landing, Yejing made a prompt decision and began to let other low-level practitioners make weapons. Gold cultivators make bows and arrows, not spears. Earth cultivators just need heavy stones. All physical cultivators throw the weapons made by the auxiliary staff into the sky, and smash as many monsters as possible. Water cultivators, ice cultivators, continue to consolidate the city walls. Begin to act. Everyone else started to move. Yejing squinted his eyes and looked for flaws in the monsters on the ground. It was at least a dozen kilometers from here to the outer edge of the Qilan Mountains. And these dozen kilometers have been occupied by millions of violent monsters. How should we act to break through these dozen kilometers and reach the Qilan Mountains? This is a serious question. The black flames in the depths of the Qilan Mountains are still burning, and the sky over there has turned dark. In fact, Yejing still has some doubts in his heart. Looking around, where is his old friend the white whale? Not only the white whale, but even other superclass monsters are not seen. The tens of millions of monsters that rushed out of the Qilan Mountains, the highest is only a heaven-class monster. These monsters seem to be driven out of the Qilan Mountains by something, not to have escaped. After all, the Qilan Mountains are so large that even the hellfire would take a long time to burn them out, right? Then why did all the monsters in the Qilan Mountains rush out? Yejing looked at the huge Qilan Mountains in the distance, and a shadow quietly fell on his heart. In the depths of the Qilan Mountains, except for the raging hellfire, there was silence, so silence that it was unbelievable. Where are the superclass monsters hiding? Why hasn't the king of monsters appeared yet? There are many doubts. In the sky, Xuanhuan led a group of extraordinary realms to fight lizard beasts frantically, as if they could wipe out all the flying monsters. The energy columns in the distance also lit up one by one, flashing bright and dazzling light, and the terrifying energy was gathering. The large laser cannon penetrated half of the sky and shot directly into the monster group. Indiscriminate attack. In an instant, 16 laser cannons containing terrifying energy suddenly shot out from various places in the 23rd district, from bottom to top, indiscriminately shot into the dense lizard group, and then pierced from head to tail. In the blink of an eye, 16 gaps appeared in the overwhelming lizard monster group, and hundreds of lizard monsters died directly. However, under the huge base, in less than a breath, the 16 gaps that were blasted out were added. On the city wall, with the actions of the elemental practitioners, a large number of weapons and resources solidified. Steel spears piled up into a mountain, and stones weighing hundreds of pounds or even thousands of pounds filled the city walls. Yejing didn't even need to speak, the physical cultivators on standby had already grasped the spears, lifted the stones, and threw them at the lizards in the sky. There was no need to aim, just throw one randomly, penetrate one to get back the money, penetrate two to make a profit. Everything was progressing smoothly. But Yejing's face did not show any joy, and he was still very solemn. Energy will be exhausted, spiritual energy will be exhausted, but the group of monsters will not be exhausted. When all resources are exhausted, it is time to abandon the south city of District 23 and move to the inner city. But how to get out of the city? Yejing couldn't help but get anxious. His mission was not to defend the city, but to go to the Kilin Mountains. Just as he frowned and scratched his head, a piece of music interrupted his thoughts. Whose phone is ringing? Yours. Yejing took out his phone. Jizuki called. What's wrong, Chief? Jizuki's voice came from inside. I'm at the resource library now. I've taken out your reward for you. It's 2 billion in total. Do you want spirit stones or do you want me to put them on your spirit stone card? 2 billion spirit stones. Yejing's eyes lit up and he said hurriedly, I want spirit stones, all of them. Can you send them to me quickly? I need them urgently. Jizuki was silent for a few seconds and said, sorry, I have something urgent to do here. I can't send them to you. How about you send someone to get them? Well, I got it. Give me the coordinates. Yejing looked at the coordinates Jizuki sent him and shouted a summoning spell. Zhao Dan Gang. With a swish, a black crack appeared in the space around him and Zhao Dan Gang came out from it. What's wrong? Gray is a mount and Zhao Dan Gang is a summoned creature. Oh my god, it's so convenient. Yejing said quickly, this is the coordinates of Jizuki. Go and get something for me, hurry up. Zhao Danggong took a look at the coordinates. Fortunately, it was not far away, just half of the magic city. He twitched his mouth, turned around and drilled into the space crack again, wailing in his heart, can I still live to the destiny realm? After entering and exiting, Zhao Danggong had an exquisite silver ring in his palm. Thank you. The motherland will remember you. Yejing snatched the space ring and sank into it. There are several space rings in the space ring. It seems that 2 billion spirit stones cannot be contained in one ring. But I can't care so much. Yejing took the space ring and sank into the furnace space. In the furnace space, the black and white cat saw Yejing again, and its fur exploded, stretching out its cat claws and scratching Yejing. I told you not to grab my neck. I'll scratch you to death. Stop it. Yejing very skillfully grabbed the back of the black and white cat's neck and lifted her up. Then, he grabbed the space ring filled with spirit stones and stuffed it into her mouth. Woo 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 woo. The black and white cat was horrified. She couldn't sense what was in the space ring. Yejing didn't know if it would work if she stuffed it into the space ring directly. It should work, after all, 2 billion spirit stones, how long will it take for this cat to eat? The black and white cat's short and soft little cat legs glared, and her eyes turned white. The space ring went straight down her throat into her stomach. Woo woo woo. What did you give me to eat? The black and white cat scratched Yejing's wrist with his backhand and escaped from the clutches. Energy. Yejing said, 2 billion spirit stones are all in the space ring, spit it out. The black and white cat seemed to not understand, and looked silly, what are you spitting out? Spit out the abyss level passive skills. Yejing held the black and white cat with both hands, and threatened, this is 2 billion. If you can't spit it out, I will smash you into a furnace now. Don't do it. When in the furnace form before, Yejing needed to use the simulated turntable to draw skills. And the skills drawn out were also evolved by the black and white cat using energy. Now there is no need to draw, just let the black and white cat evolve directly. The black and white cat broke away from Yejing's hand, rolled his eyes and said, I'll make it clear in advance that I need to digest the 2 billion energy for a while, and I can only evolve one first. Yejing asked, what about the other one? About a few hours. Then hurry up. Instantly, rays of light appeared on the weak body of the black and white cat, and the light was as colorful and beautiful as a rainbow. The halo surrounded the black and white cat, like a star ring. Then, an extremely sacred breath flowed out of the black and white cat's body, shaking the entire furnace space. In a blink of an eye, the colorful light covering the black and white cat's body began to change. Half was black, and half was white. Gradually formed a Tai Chi shape, slowly rotating. The Tai Chi pattern was hung high, and finally all the breath separated from the black and white cat and flowed into Yejing's body. Yejing stood still, waiting for the Tai Chi breath to flow into his body, and he couldn't help shouting. Evolve a better one for me. The black and white cat's eyes opened wide and stared at Yejing. This is not something I can control. In the black and white cat's sealed memory, there are endless treasures, and these treasures require infinite resources to unlock. With Yejing's continuous investment, the black and white cat can get things from the endless treasures for Yejing. If you really want to specify a passive skill, you probably have to wait until her injuries are mostly healed. After the black and white cat evolved, an electronic sound rang in Yejing's mind. Obtain abyssal passive skill, God descends to earth. God descends to earth. When you are in danger, God will descend on you within 1 minute. You will ignore any attacks below the abyss and greatly increase your combat power. God descends to earth. Note: give tribute to God, and God will help you. This kind of ambiguous word again. Yejing was very troubled. Does it have to be like this to appear high-end? Is this the only way to widen the gap with other types of passive skills? The introduction of God descends to earth is very similar to hero, both are so vague. Yejing can only understand one sentence. Within 1 minute, ignore all attacks below the abyss and greatly increase combat power. That is to say, when the god descends to earth, if you don't use abyss energy to attack him, he is invincible. The combat power is greatly improved. Only when we are in actual combat can we know what is going on. As for the other note, Yejing thought about it and understood it. As long as there is energy supply, the damn divine light can continue forever, right? Although he didn't know how much it would cost, he vaguely felt that it must be enough. Thinking of this, Yejing couldn't help but look at the black and white cat, who was weak all over, like after an orgasm. Why are you looking at me like that? I told you that I can't control it. Isn't it the same when you use the turntable? The black and white cat's scalp was numb because of Yejing's stare. After hesitating for a while, Yejing said, "Can you spit out the remaining 1 billion spirit stones for me? Get out." Under the furious scream of the black and white cat, Yejing withdrew from the furnace space. It's time to find an opportunity to rush out of the city. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 433. After exiting the furnace space, Yejing Zheng saw Gray and Zhao holding a space ring, rubbing their hands back and forth. Is this dividing the spoils? Is this yours? Yejing asked. Zhao Xingbang nodded happily. Well, Jizuku also took out the 2 of ours, by the way. My god, this is the biggest fortune I have ever seen in my life. I feel like I can die without regrets. Gray is not as excited as Zhao Xingba. No matter how much money he has, it is not as much as his family. It's just that this is the first time he has earned a large amount of wealth by relying on his own strength, and he is inevitably very happy, with a smile on his face. Oh, so there's a lot of money in this. Yejing murmured to himself, walked up to the two of them very naturally, stretched out his left and right hands, and snatched the space rings from their hands. Zhao horizontal bar. Gray. What are you doing? After Zhao Xingbang was stunned for a moment, he almost exploded on the spot and pounced directly on Yejing, trying to snatch the space ring back. I'll keep it for you first. Yejing moved his steps lightly and ducked over. No need, give it back to me. Zhao Hanbang's eyes instantly turned red. I'm just borrowing it temporarily. Don't worry, it won't be all spent. I will definitely return it to you. Yejing showed an embarrassed look, and he put the two space rings filled with spiritual stones into his pocket. Gray didn't care that much. He frowned and asked, didn't you just take 2 billion? Isn't it enough? What do you want to do that requires so many spiritual stones? I also know that I just took 2 billion, but isn't it gone? 1 billion evolved into gods descending to earth. Another billion are still evolving. It seems that the passive skill of God descends to earth is another money-grabbing maniac. He has no spiritual stones in his hand, so Gray and Zhao borrowed a few from the horizontal bar just in case. It should be considered a loan, right? Yejing shrugged his shoulders and pretended to be helpless and said, I don't know, it's just in case. I'll pay you back when the matter is over. Zhao Xingbang threatened with a stern face, if you don't pay it back, then we will die together. In a short period of time, thousands of flying lizard beasts in the sky have fallen. They were either shot down by a group of extraordinary bosses, shot down by spears, smashed down by heavy rocks, or shot down by laser cannon. How miserable! These tens of thousands of flying monsters have become the targets of everyone's attacks, like living targets, being beaten in the sky. The Tauren who were originally restrained by obstacles outside the city wall also changed their strategy, and started climbing up the city wall one by one. The middle-level monsters behind the Tauren cannon fodder group have almost reached the foot of the city wall. Most of the medium-level monsters are Earth-level monsters. The tricks Yejing used before cannot hinder the Earth-level monsters at all. It is estimated that they will abandon the city and retreat before long. I don't know how well the fortifications in the rear are built. Inside the Magic City, all the citizens in the outer 5 districts have been evacuated and are moving towards the inner city. With the cooperation of the federal directors, the practitioners in the city have built a large number of fortifications in the 18th district of the Magic City. They have directly abandoned the outer 5 districts. It just so happened that the Magic City Council had originally decided to demolish the outer 5 districts, but just to worry about the impact, they only started to attack the outer 3 districts first. Unexpectedly, they took advantage of the opportunity of the Warcraft siege to directly eradicate all the outer 5 districts. A large number of practitioners built copper and iron walls in District 18, completely covering the periphery of District 18. This was their first line of defense. The second line of defense is in District 13. I don't know which awesome director directly drove back a large number of battleships staying in the Star Sea, and stayed in the sky above District 13. How many ships are these? There were probably thousands of them. Thousands of interstellar battleships covered a large area of the sky above the demonic city. Tens of millions of artillery fire were aimed at the surroundings, waiting for the surprise attack from the sky monsters. Therefore, if there are battleships in the sky, there is no need to worry. If the Pluto Crusade had not just ended and many warships were under repair, it is estimated that the Angry Council would have transferred the entire 2nd Expeditionary Force and directly fired thousands of artillery to destroy these monsters. It's too radical. The Warcraft bosses in the Killen Mountains will not agree. Although they don't know what those super-level Warcraft that have not yet appeared are planning, but if all the tens of millions of Warcraft they control are destroyed by the Demon City, then he will definitely be furious. I don't know how many super-level magical beasts are hidden in the Killen Mountains, and there will be many if I think about it. and the king who controls this group of super-level monsters is a true holy beast. Under the control of the directors and permanent directors, the Magic City is carrying out evacuation and defense work in an orderly manner. They were unhurried and unhurried. These big guys who stood at the top of Blue Star's power did not think that the Demon City would be destroyed. The only ones who are panicking are the lower-class citizens. Except for the irresistible Black Flame Hellfire, everything else is expected. This is a crisis in the Magic City. It can also be said to be a hunt. In a place no one knows, Anthony, the arcane master who masters more than a dozen elements of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, rain, thunder, ice, sets out. After Anthony took a deep look at the direction of the hellfire above the Demon City, he told the Dean his plan and flew towards the depths of the Killen Mountains alone. In the unknown sky, a flaming dragon that is several thousand meters long and ranked at the top of the solar system is flying wildly towards the direction of hellfire. Wherever it goes, there are thousands of miles of ashes and thousands of miles of ruins. Ding ding ding. There are still a few hours before the flaming dragon arrives at the battlefield. The abyssal energy generated by the burning of hellfire has touched the hearts of many bigwigs. If it weren't for the lack of information at this stage and the high pressure of the permanent directors, it is estimated that many bigwigs would go to the depths of the Killen Mountains to find hellfire and opportunities. Some people are not allowed to go, while others don't want to go. Yejing looked at the nameless monsters all over the mountains and plains, frowned, and thought about how to break through. He has now summed up a rule of passive skills. The more dangerous you are, the more you are suicidal, the greater the chance of passive skills being triggered. It's like the passive skills will not be triggered unless there is a life-threatening situation. Yejing is thinking about the success rate of jumping directly from the city wall, and then rushing all the way to the group of monsters and rushing to the Killen Mountains. He thought he had a great advantage in group battles. War God combo, each attack will increase the attack power and destructive power by 1%, and can be stacked up to 1,000 layers. This is a passive skill that he almost forgot. After all, the battles during this period were either single-player battles or ended within a few rounds, and there was no way to stack up a few layers of War God combo. But now the situation is different. Rush down. Chop randomly. War God combo is full. After the War God combo is full, give up treatment, commit suicide, and activate the God of Heaven to descend to the earth. War God and God of Heaven, it is not a dream to rush all the way to the Killen Mountains. There is a plan before there is action. Yejing closed his eyes and thought for a while, constantly checking the success rate in his mind. Once, twice. Okay, I won't pretend anymore, he doesn't have such a developed brain. But now there is another problem. The problem of weapons. He has no weapons in his hands now. He can't use Zhao Danggong's golden shovel either. After all, the golden shovel is less than half a meter long, and it's too awkward to use. Yejing glanced at the copper spears piled on the city wall, and his eyes lit up. Come here, some gold cultivators, help me condense a stick. As soon as he finished speaking, more than a dozen gold cultivators in the underground palace realm came over and asked, "What kind do you want? How long do you want? How heavy do you want?" About 10 meters long, a few hundred kilograms will be enough. It's not important. The important thing is that it doesn't break while using it. He didn't want it to break in half while swinging it, or to break it by accident when using it. In the group of monsters, no one was made for him. No, condense a few more for me. Are you also a cautious and steady person? Cautious and steady people would not do this. The action was very fast. After a while, 8 copper pillars appeared. The copper pillars were 10 meters long, and they were condensed very thin for easy use, and could be held in one hand. Yejing picked up one at random and waited, revealing a satisfied smile. It was very convenient, and it was free, so it was practical. Except for the one he was holding, Yejing threw the other 7 into the storage space. After everything was ready, he looked at Gray and Zhao Dangang. "Come with me, get ready to act." Gray and the other 2 were confused. "Action? Where to?" Yejing said, "Of course, go out of the city." "Go out of the city." Zhao Dangang jumped up and down when he heard about going out of the city, and stretched out his finger to point wildly outside the city. "Are you blind or am I? How can we go out of the city when we don't even have a place to stay? Do you want to be food or feces?" There were tens of millions of monsters outside the South City alone, so dense that it was impossible to put down a foot. Yejing rolled his eyes. "Then what do you say we should do? The tasks of the council have been issued. If you pass this level, you too will be one of the directors. Aren't you tempted?" "Of course. Tempted." Zhao Dangang was speechless. "I am tempted, but this is not a reason to die. By the way," Gray on the side suddenly interrupted, "can't Zhao Dangang cut a space crack? Wouldn't it be enough to let him directly open a space crack from here to the Qilan Mountains?" Yejing, "Isn't this cheating? Why didn't I think of it?" Yejing turned his head and looked at Zhao Dangang. However, Zhao Dangang spread his hands and said helplessly, "I have thought about it, but it is impossible. From here to the Qilan Mountains, there are tens of millions of monsters gathered, which makes the space vibration very fragile and extremely unstable. If we forcefully pass through the space crack, there is a 99.9% probability that we will fall directly into the space gap. Well, it turns out that cheating is impossible." Yejing looked disappointed and sighed. "Then follow me." Yejing raised the copper pillar in his hand and drew a circle in the air. "I will be responsible for the charge, you just need to follow, it's not time to use you now." "Can you do it?" Zhao Dangang looked at Yejing with suspicion. Yejing snorted, raised his chin, and showed a proud expression. "A man can't say no." Gray muttered in a low voice, "Obviously he is a virgin." After giving the order, Yejing shouted to Wang Hu in the sky. "Commander Wang! Come down, I'm leaving the city. If you can't hold on, just abandon the city." The tiger in the sky was having a great time. He smacked his lips and fell down. Gray spread his wings and grabbed Zhao Dangang's arm. Yejing nodded at the 2 of them and walked to the wall. Looking at the endless group of monsters under the corner of the wall, he couldn't help but tremble all over, his scalp was numb, it was still scary. Yejing took a deep breath, exhaled, gritted his teeth, stomped his feet, jumped high and suddenly jumped off the city wall. Boom! With a loud bang, Yejing and the copper pillar fell heavily to the ground. The amazing impact force swept away all the minotaurs within a radius of 10 meters, forming a small vacuum area. Before the smoke and dust dissipated, Yejing took the initiative to rush out and jumped into the army of minotaurs. He stepped on the ground with his feet, held the copper pillar with both hands, and swept it on the spot. The heavy copper pillar swept around with a strong gust of wind, and all the minotaurs were swept away wherever it passed. Fell high and smashed down heavily. Triggering the War God combo, the attack power increased by 1%, the destructive power increased by 1%, and 1 layer was added. Triggering the War God combo, the attack power increased by 1%, the destructive power increased by 1%, and 2 layers were added. Using human-level monsters to brush the layers, it was so cool. Swinging the golden hoop. No, it was the copper pillar and started sweeping. Sweeping left and right, the blood boiled under the violence, and all the minotaurs were smashed away without exception. This is like a big boss with full god equipment going to a novice copy. Yejing pushed all the way, violently breaking through the level, and forcibly swept a bloody path in the group of minotaurs and rushed out. Crush, it's crush. In just a moment, Yejing rushed out of the magic city for several hundred meters, flew directly out of the gathering point of the Minotaur cannon fodder, and rushed to the ground-level monster. Is it really so invincible? In mid-air, Gray, who had been following Yejing closely, was stunned. Invincible? Zhao Danggong rolled his eyes and said disdainfully, "What kind of invincibility is bullying small monsters? I can do it too." "Then you go. You don't have a chance to show off. How about I let go and send you down?" "Don't do it, brother." After rushing out of the Minotaur blockade, the oncoming ground-level monsters were not recognized or named. This kind of passerby monster was directly replaced by a rows of monsters rushed towards Yejing. At this time, Yejing's God of War combo had been superimposed to more than 200 layers, and the attack power doubled again and again. With this kind of combat power, why should he be afraid of monsters of the same level? Aren't these monsters also sent food to whet the appetite? Yejing was seen exuding a strong murderous aura and blood all over his body. He stretched out his hands, placed the 10-meter-long copper pillar across his chest, and pushed forward with force. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 434. What do I need this iron rod for? Yejing now has 2 iron rods, one is 10 centimeters long and the other is 10 meters long. 10 centimeters is useless, but 10 meters is useful. He held the head of the copper pillar in his left hand and the bottom of the copper pillar in his right hand, placing them across his chest. His legs exploded with strength, and he pushed them up forcefully, pushing all the monsters in front of him back dozens of meters. Far. Veins popped out on his arms, his blood surged wildly, and 2 deep and long marks were dragged under his feet. He held the copper pillar with both hands and pushed it tens of meters. When he was not strong enough to add more monsters, the 2 sides reached a stalemate. In just 1 second, the monsters that had been swept away surged up again, and the huge force pushed Yejing back even further. What is this, a competition of strength? Yejing is a human being. Comparing strength with monsters is asking for trouble, especially with countless monsters. The biggest difference between humans and beasts is probably their IQ. Yejing's face turned red, his legs exploded, his feet were stuck 10 centimeters into the ground, and he was slowly pushed back. Naturally, Yejing alone could not withstand the violent swarm of monsters. When his arms began to tremble, he suddenly withdrew all his strength and jumped backwards. The effect of force is reciprocal. Yejing suddenly withdrew his force. The group of monsters fighting him in front instantly lost their support and rolled over one by one, falling into a helter-skelter mess. It was not a wise choice to confront them head-on. Taking advantage of the collapse of the group of monsters, Yejing hurriedly bent his legs, jumped up high, and jumped behind them like a dragonfly on the heads of monsters. After taking several steps in a row, until there was no more leverage, Yejing fell from the sky. His movements did not pause at all, and before he could fall, he saw the copper pillar in his hand swinging straight into the ground. With the support of the copper pillar, Yejing jumped into the air again like a pole vault. Is this guy from an acrobatic troupe? Gray carried Zhao's horizontal bar and flew high in the air. Looking at the flying Yejing below, he couldn't help but complain. He watched helplessly as Yejing jumped more than a dozen times in a row, spanning a distance of hundreds of meters. If it hadn't been for him flying so high, Yejing was almost shoulder to shoulder with him. Zhao Xingbang nodded sympathetically, I feel like something's not right with this guy's body. Others are getting more and more tired the more they fight, but this guy is getting bigger and more excited, as if he's on a stimulant. In such a high-intensity battle, if it were him, he would probably be exhausted within a few minutes, and his speed, attack power, and mental state would all decline over time. But he didn't see Yejing like this. According to his observation, Yejing became more and more courageous as he fought, as if he didn't know how tired he was. The first hit only had an attack power of 100, but after 100 hits, the value of 100 would become a value of 200. And it is still improving, as if there is no upper limit. What an exaggerated growth rate this is. This is more powerful than any amplification like secret technique and violent secret technique he knows, and it is not on the same level at all. He has been observing Yejing from the air. Not only the attack power, but also the small wounds on Yejing's body will disappear quietly, as if he has his own wet nurse to treat him all the time. Yejing's physical endurance and speed of recovery from injuries were so abnormal that Zhao Hanba couldn't help but doubt, could this guy not be human? Or it has the blood of other creatures. Yejing fought bloody battles while the two of them hung in mid-air. From time to time, they would let out two exclamations and then applaud. This means that Yejing cannot hear their voices because the height is too high, otherwise he might be angry. I'm paving the way, and you two are watching the clown paving the way? Is it funny? That is to say, Zhao Xingbang observed carefully, and he didn't even know that the scars and blood stains on Yejing's body that were inadvertently scratched by the monsters would be healed by the extraordinary physique in the blink of an eye. In other words, his own vitality has always been maintained at a healthy state of more than 80%. Too inexperienced. Although this year's World of Warcraft is not good, the victory lies in its large number. When Yejing sweeps away 100 of them, they will gather to fill them up in the blink of an eye, making it impossible to fight them all. Fortunately, his goal was not to kill all the monsters, but to break out of the encirclement and enter the Kiln Mountains. It was precisely because the monsters he faced now were weak and numerous, that he managed to hit the God of War with combos without taking too much damage. Until now, the energy shield of the Orphan's Way that he carried has not been broken. To be honest, this is really cool. Yejing squinted his eyes and enjoyed the pleasure of killing monsters. His face was obviously flushed. He was in a state of climax, both mentally and physically. Even the blood in the body is boiling, the internal organs are functioning faster and faster, the heart is beating thumpingly, and the blood is boiling. This feeling is simply 100 times better than using divine equipment to play Diablo 3. Copper pillars were flying, phantoms appeared one after another, his feet were moving every minute and every second, and his body never stayed in place for a moment. A piece of broken copper and iron was suddenly used by him to achieve the power of Dingai Shenzhen. However, prestige is not always there. When Yejing swept all the way, he was already several kilometers away from the Demon City and less than 10 kilometers away from the outskirts of the Kiln Mountains. Now he is alone in the center of the monster frenzy, and the monsters here are no longer something that can be dealt with casually. Crossing over human-level monsters, crossing over Earth-level monsters, and pushing thousands of monsters with both hands, when Yejing flew with rhythm. Suddenly, his whole body was bounced away. The rhythm is broken. BGM is offline. The Orphan's Way is broken, refreshed in 1 hour. Yejing. Yejing was confused, his brain was confused, I was just enjoying it, why did it suddenly break? His whole body was bounced into the air by an unknown attack and flew backwards. Can't think, there is no time to think about what happened, Yejing just wanted to use the copper column to support the ground for pole vaulting again, but he was stunned again. Huh? Why do I feel that the weight is wrong? Where is my big iron rod? He hurriedly turned his head to look at his palm, and was stunned. The copper column, which was originally 10 meters long, broke at some point. Only more than 3 meters of it was left in his hand, and the other half had fallen somewhere. Oh my God, I encountered a fierce monster. Yejing's heart trembled, and he was about to fall to the ground. He had no time to look for the enemy. With a thought, another brand new copper pillar appeared in his palm. With both hands, the copper pillar supported the ground, and his body drew a beautiful arc in the air. Landed safely. Perfect operation. Please subscribe if you want to see more. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bouletin G. Bayet. Chapter 435. After Yejing stabilized his body, he immediately swept away the monsters around him at 360 degrees, and then focused his attention directly ahead. In his sight, there was a huge thing blocking his vision. Oh my god! Yejing lowered his head, then raised his head again, with shock in his eyes. There is a mountain in front of him. Wrong. It's a row of mountains. What kind of monster is this? Its body is like a mountain, and its armor is like armor. The huge body that towers into the clouds is carried on the outside by a thick shell. The shell is black in color, and its shape is like a pyramid. It's like a big mountain carrying a small mountain on its back. Under the large armor covering the whole body, a neck more than 10 meters long is exposed, with a head connected to the neck. 1. This is a big tortoise. Yejing had heard of this kind of monster, which was once used as a dungeon boss in a certain game. This turtle-like monster seems to be called Antuan, right? That's right, in front of him were rows of Antuan tortoise-shell beasts that were as big as mountains. Antuan beast is a heaven-level monster with dual elements of earth and fire. Its body is huge, its defense is invincible, and its weakness is its extremely slow movement speed. With Yejing's speed alone, he had every chance to get away and bypass the Antuan beast. He chose not to confront it head-on and took a detour from the flanks. But that's how to fight an Antuan beast. Yejing turned around and looked to the left, where there was a row of Antuan's tortoise-shell heads. He turned his head again and looked to the right, where there was still a row of Antuan's tortoise-shell heads. Endless as far as the eye can see. This damn thing directly blocked the road leading to the Kilin Mountains. Isn't this cheating? Can't you afford it? Yejing's face turned dark. He stood still in place, but Antuan did not tolerate him. A row of Antuan beasts slowly raised a tortoise leg, and then stepped forward. This step was very slow, taking about 3 seconds, but this step spanned more than 10 meters. The Antuan beast standing in front of Yejing didn't seem to see Yejing, and stepped directly towards Yejing with its huge turtle palm hanging. My dear! Yejing was so frightened by the tortoise's feet that he weighed 1,000 kilograms that he broke into a cold sweat and hurriedly stepped back. He finally knew why he was knocked away. He was walking without looking at the road just now, and this bastard is walking without looking at the road either. Yejing took a dozen steps back, and the Antuan beast took a step forward. A row of Antuan beasts were approaching towards the magic city. This is the real side push. Use your huge body to block everything, and then move together in one direction, not letting any creature cross. What should I do if the road is closed? Yejing suddenly raised his head, originally looking for an opportunity to cross from above, but unexpectedly he saw a black dot falling from the sky. Gray. Zhao horizontal bar. Gray flapped his wings and dived towards the ground. He didn't fall. Instead, he wanted to catch the Zhao horizontal bar that fell down. Ah! Help! Zhao horizontal bar screamed continuously, falling from the sky, his face rushed down, and he was about to hit the ground. Yejing, pick me up. Yejing moved away silently. Bang! With a muffled sound, Zhao's horizontal bar smashed out a deep pit in front of Yejing. Land safely. Bah, bah, bah. Zhao Xingbang crawled out of the pit and glared at Yejing. You should pick me up. I was almost disfigured. Isn't your disfigurement just plastic surgery? After Yejing replied casually, he wondered, why did you fall down? Are there monsters up there too? Zhao Xingbang took a mouthful of dirt, and after squeaking wildly several times, he complained with a sullen face, Gray didn't look at the road when he was flying, and he crashed into a mountain. It's okay to hit the mountain. He let go of his hand in panic and threw me down. Hit the mountain? Yejing placed his gaze behind Zhao Xingbar, with a strange expression on his face. How tall is this big bastard? At this time, Gray, who was chasing after him from high in the sky, also fell down. He looked at Zhao Xingban with an apologetic look. I didn't expect to reach the Qilan Mountains so soon. Who knew I could hit the mountain? Then don't give up. Who would treat you like a mount? Gray's face darkened. I'm not a mount in the first place. After Zhao Xingbang rubbed his aching body, he looked at Yejing. Are we reaching the Qilan Mountains so soon? Yejing shook his head and pointed behind them. No, look back. Gray and Zhao looked back with confusion. Coincidentally, Antuan was also a little interested in the things falling from the sky. It thought it had hit a bird, stretched out its long neck, and lowered its huge tortoise-shell head. When Gray and Zhao turned around, they saw a tortoise-shell head of more than 10 meters in size less than 1 meter away from the two of them. Their whole bodies trembled instantly, and their legs went limp and collapsed on the ground. Strange. Monster. There is a monster. What the hell is this? Yejing said expressionlessly, this is the big bastard. Then you should kill it quickly. I also think there is no way to start. Antuanman's eyes were bigger than the two of them, and its crystal clear eyes looked at Gray Zhao and the horizontal bar with curiosity. Moo. A low roar, or a muffled sound, came out of the nostrils of the Antun beast, and the strong airflow instantly hit the three of them. They lost their balance and were blown into the air in the blink of an eye. Gray, help me. Zhao Danggong hadn't figured out what was going on before he went up to the sky again. You two should fly higher this time. After Yejing instructed, he forced a circle in the air and let go of the copper pillar in his hand. The copper pillar fell, and he stepped on it with one foot, suddenly borrowed the force, and jumped several meters high, flying towards Antun's head. With a support point, Yejing landed lightly on top of the Antun beast's head. Moo. As if it felt something falling on its head, the Antun beast growled to vent its dissatisfaction, and it shook its huge head to throw Yejing off. Unfortunately, since he came up, don't think about him going down. Yejing stepped on the ground with both feet and slid down the neck of the Antun beast. He used both hands to grab the turtle shell and then climbed up. Since he couldn't get around from the left or right side, he would get around from the body. Be careful, Gray said with Zhao Dangang, looking worried. You two take care of yourselves, Yejing said without looking back. He was fine. This kind of magic beast alone could not pose a threat. He pressed his hands on the turtle shell and climbed to the top without paying attention to the moving Antun beast. A few minutes later, Yejing reached the top of the Antun beast and jumped down. I'm sorry, Demon City, I can't take care of this kind of thing, I leave it to you. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Buletin G. Bayet. Chapter 436. I have crossed mountains and seas. I have saved Arad. Yejing jumped down from the giant turtle that was as tall as a mountain and jumped behind the Antun beast. He didn't even look at it and rushed directly towards the direction of the demon city. This thing is not something he can handle, so he will leave it to the group of people in the demon city. However, it is estimated that by the time this row of giant turtles moves to the demon city, it will probably be the next day. Before, Yejing was blocked by the Antun beast, and he didn't know how far he was from the Qilan Mountains. Now that he has passed the Antun beast and looks forward, he can already see the outer periphery of the Qilan Mountains. Above the Qilan Mountains, there is a black flame similar to an illusion. I don't know if this black flame has no temperature. Even if it is the fire burning the sky, it can't feel a trace of heat. Although he can't feel the temperature of the black flame, in this place, he can already feel the rich breath of the abyss leaking out. The spiritual energy in his body was ready to move, and the spiritual energy flowing through his body seemed to be suppressed in some way. Whether it was the flow speed or the efficiency of use, it was slightly affected. Sure enough, has the abyss breath begun to be generated? Yejing thought silently. The burning of hellfire produced abyss energy, and this abyss energy has begun to spread from the depths of the Kilin Mountains to the periphery. When there is more abyss energy, this energy that is far higher than the spiritual energy will flow into the demon city. Not many people know about the abyss energy now. Once this energy full of huge threats is widely known, there will definitely be a big mess. Buzz buzz buzz. His mind began to buzz again. After the black and white cat hidden in the furnace space sensed the abyss energy, it began to roll around and toss over and over to get out. Black and white cat, let me out, I want to eat. Yejing, why let you out? Are you making trouble? Black and white cat, I feel the abyss energy. Although not much, it is enough to fill the gap between my teeth. Yejing, you'd better be honest. Now a group of big guys are eyeing this bit of abyss energy. If I get rid of it, I will be gone too. Black and white cat, destroy them all. If I can beat them, you don't need to tell me. Now it's not just the big guys in the demon city who are eyeing this bit of abyss energy, even the superclass monsters in the depths of the Kilin Mountains are hiding, and we don't know what they are doing. As the hellfire keeps burning, the amount of abyss energy continues to increase, and more creatures will be eyeing it. This is a good thing. If the abyss energy can abolish the spiritual energy and set off a new round of energy frenzy in the solar system, the strength of all creatures will be greatly improved. However, this is under the premise that the hellfire does not spread. Once the hellfire spreads, the first thing to burn is the demon city, and the second thing to burn is the blue planet. Can't afford to offend. Let's control the spread of the hellfire first. After Yejing stepped over the Anton beast, there were not many monsters blocking him. There were not many, but the strength was increased several times. In the vast open space outside the demon city, scattered heaven-level monsters that looked unsightly were moving towards the direction of the demon city. The Anton beast was the isolation layer. The ones in front of it were below heaven level, and the ones behind it were above heaven level. After passing the first level, it was time for the second level. Yejing silently looked at his status bar. God of War combo had been stacked for hundreds of layers, and it was still within the duration. If it was interrupted, it would not be easy to stack it again. Thinking of this, Yejing's eyes suddenly turned to the heaven-level monster closest to him. What is this? A 4-meter-long monster, with 4 legs on the ground, covered with dark purple fur, with a bloody mouth and half-meter-long sharp fangs on both sides. Not only fangs, but also 4 claws with pale and sharp fingertips, as if they would rip open the belly with a touch. Is this a demon wolf? Or a demon husky? Forget it, don't worry about it. This is an evolved version of the wind-controlling demon wolf, which usually acts alone in the Kilin Mountains. The wind-controlling demon wolf stared at Yejing with its fierce wolf eyes. Before Yejing could make a move, a small hurricane appeared out of thin air and pressed towards Yejing. Huh! It was actually a brave one? It was called a small hurricane, but that was only compared to a tornado. The hurricane rotated at a speed of nearly 100 revolutions per second, and the surrounding space was shaking. The 10-meter-high tornado pressed down from above and wrapped Yejing in an instant. The small hurricane was blank, and Yejing's body was wrapped in the hurricane. The space inside the hurricane was decreasing, and it was blowing towards Yejing from all directions. Don't you want to smash me to pieces? Yejing looked at the hurricane pressing down around him calmly. He felt that with this wind speed, even steel could be shattered in an instant. For the purpose of experiment, he casually threw a copper column into the hurricane bell. Swish, swish, swish. In the blink of an eye, the copper pillar was shaved into gold slag from head to tail. Wow, it's so sharp. Yejing shuddered and retracted his contempt. How could he rush out? The existence position in the small hurricane was only 3 meters in radius, and it was still shrinking. It was estimated that it would hit Yejing in just a few seconds. However, Yejing only thought for 3 seconds and thought of a way to get out of the hurricane without any injury. He suddenly raised his head. Use summoning. Gray. Gray, come and pick me up. That's right, it's empty up there, which is in line with the setting of a hurricane. A few seconds later, Gray, who had been on standby, flew down from above. Need rescue. Yejing nodded solemnly and stretched out a hand. Pull me up, I don't want to get hurt. Finally it's my turn to play. Gray sighed, grabbed Yejing's arm, flew into the sky, and escaped directly from the hurricane range. Okay, put me down. It seemed that there was too much noise in the sky, and Gray didn't hear Yejing's voice and continued to fly upwards. Hey, hey, hey. Stop flying and put me down. Listen to me. Gray didn't hear Yejing's call until he flew hundreds of meters high. Then, he let go of his hand. Are you stupid? Yejing's eyes glared and fell directly from hundreds of meters high. A few seconds later, with a loud bang, Yejing fell to the ground. It's only a few hundred meters, but it doesn't hurt? Huh. It seems that it really doesn't hurt, and it's even a little soft? Yejing was slightly stunned, and touched the bottom of his body. It was so soft, and there was something there. He turned his head and was immediately shocked. It wasn't the ground under his butt. It was the wind-controlling demon wolf. The physical defense of the wind-controlling demon wolf was not high. It was hit by Yejing from such a high altitude, and it foamed at the mouth and its eyes turned white. But it didn't die, just a short-term slight coma. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bouletin G. Bayet. Chapter 437. Coma is coma, not dead is not dead. But as long as someone takes a last hit, he's dead. Yejing raised the copper pillar in his hand very calmly and hit the wind-controlling demon wolf on the head with the stick. Bang. The skin is torn. One more stick. Bang. Flesh and blood flew everywhere. After receiving several heavy blows from Yejing, the wind-controlling demon wolf tilted its head and became glorious. There is no one who can fight. After Yejing sighed, he stood up from the wind-controlling demon wolf and patted the dust on his body. Can't there be an opponent who can be beaten? After waving the copper pillar in his hand a few times, he was just about to continue moving towards the outskirts of the Qilan Mountains. From the distant horizon, a red shadow suddenly crossed over. The red shadow burned half of the sky and headed towards the Qilan Mountains at a speed that exceeded the speed of sound. The moment the red shadow appeared on the horizon, the temperature for hundreds of miles suddenly changed, and the high temperature was suppressed instantly. The terrifying power descended from the sky, extremely shocking. The powerful biological pressure brought all the nearby active monsters to a standstill. Whether they were human-level monsters or heaven-level monsters, they all bowed down, bowing their heads like ministers kneeling before the emperor. Yejing looked around with a shocked expression. Looking at the trembling monsters, his heart trembled. What happened? He just felt a terrifying coercion coming from the distance, but he did not feel the trembling feeling coming from the depths of his blood. Not only the monster, but before Yejing could react, 2 screams came from above. Ah! Help! Bang bang! With 2 falls, Gray and Zhao's horizontal bar fell again. Why did you 2 fall down again? Gray and Gray climbed up from the pit in disgrace, their faces full of panic and fear. Their whole bodies were shaking, and they stared at the sky in the distance with their eyes wide open. You. Look the over there. What on earth is that? Yejing turned to look at the red shadow in the sky, his pupils suddenly tightened, his whole body went limp, and he almost collapsed on the ground. Damn you! God is coming! The red shadow flew from afar in the blink of an eye, its figure grew larger and larger, and its true body was gradually revealed. The 1,000-meter-long dragon body is burning with scorching flames, covered with dragon scale armor that is 99% immune to elements, and covered with dragon armor that is 99% immune to physical elements. A pair of 100-meter-long crimson dragon wings flapped wildly, and each flap was accompanied by an unparalleled strong airflow. Every time it fanned, the temperature in 100 miles radius increased by more than 10 degrees. Arrive. This creature that stands at the top of the biological chain of Blue Star and even the solar system is here. The flaming dragon flashed past from high in the sky while flapping its huge dragon wings. Yejing and the other two people all raised their heads and stared at the majestic figure of the sun dragon with expressionless faces. They kept praying in their hearts to let this great god fly over quickly. Zhao Hanban was still muttering in a low voice, "Is it going to the Qilan Mountains?" Gray shrank his neck with a look of fear on his face, looking in this direction, it should be right. Then, the two looked at each other, turned around, and walked towards the demon city. "We won't go to the Qilan Mountains." "What the hell? The flame dragon is here, what else can they do? To die? Or deliver rations? They don't have enough space for the flame dragon to fill its teeth. Such a big unexpected situation is beyond their control." Etc. Before the two of them took a few steps, they heard Yejing's voice coming from behind. Zhao Hanbang took out the golden shovel without hesitation, pointed it directly at Yejing, and said with a vigilant look, "What do you want to do? Stop us? If you say one more word, we will be enemies." "I just want to say." Yejing muttered, "Please bring me one. The flame dragon is here, so there is no need to think about it. Their mission is immediately declared a failure. Okay, let's go back to the magic city." The flame dragon is a top-level dragon creature with extraordinary sense of smell and vision, invincible attack power, and invincible physical defense and elemental immunity. It came for the energy of the abyss and the fire of hell. It came all the way from Mount Everest and went straight to the depths of the Qilan Mountains. But when they got here, the flaming dragon was flying high in the sky and suddenly lowered its head. He saw three figures as small as ants, and one of them actually had the kind of energy that made his blood boil. As a top intelligent creature, its IQ is also very high. Its thinking only paused for a second before making a decision. "Do you feel that the temperature is rising?" Yejing said casually, and sweat appeared on his forehead. "It seems so. It's like a big stove stopped next to it." Gray felt the same way. 1 second later. "The three of them can't leave." A huge red shadow fell from the sky. After trampling countless low-level monsters to death, it landed in front of Yejing and the others. The distance between the two sides is less than 10 meters. The dragon eye, which was larger than a human, stared at Yejing, and a feeling of fear like falling into the abyss followed. In an instant, Yejing and the others were covered in cold sweat, and their legs could not stop trembling. Roar. The roar of the dragon was so deafening that the sky and the earth shattered, causing the three of them to retreat several meters away, and their inferior clothes caught fire. "Are you moved?" "I dare not move." Yejing and the others were motionless, as if their brains had shut down, just staring blankly at the giant creature in front of them. "Who I am? Who is it? Why am I here? Why is it here?" Yejing and the others looked at the flaming dragon. The flame dragon also looked at Yejing. Suddenly, Gray seemed to be within sight of the flame dragon and whispered something. "Have you noticed? This great god doesn't seem to be looking at us." Zhao Xingbang frowned and nodded. "Why do I feel like it's been looking at Yejing?" After the two looked at each other, they quietly moved a few steps to the side. Then, the flaming dragon's eyes remained motionless, staring at Yejing, as if he was discerning something. Yejing's clothes were soaked through. He glanced at Gray and the two of them and whispered, "You two. Get over here quickly." "Sorry Yejing, we really can't do anything." The two shook their heads and strongly refused, their eyes full of pity, and silently backed away. Hey! Are we brothers? Are you abandoning me like this? Gray said, I will burn paper for you today next year. Zhao Xingbang cheered, you can even deal with Hades, are you still afraid of a mere flaming dragon? This is not a situation. Yejing almost cried. Although Hades was stronger than the flame dragon, there was a large group of semi-saints besieging him. Now that he is alone, is it enough for the flame dragon to take a bite? Just when Yejing's heart was beating fast and his whole body was shaking, the flaming dragon actually spoke. Weak human, what kind of aura is this? Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bouletin G. Bayet. Chapter 438. Question, now a flaming dragon asks me what kind of smell I have, how should I answer? Braised or steamed? Is it salty or spicy? Yejing was frightened by the sentence, but after thinking about it, he guessed that the flaming dragon was not asking about his smell, but the smell of the abyss energy. He secretly breathed a sigh of relief, as long as he didn't eat me, any smell would be fine. This is a relatively high-level energy smell. Yejing suppressed his panic, organized his words, and replied calmly. Energy smell. The flaming dragon's huge dragon eyes scanned Yejing up and down, as if he was stared at by some extremely terrifying demon king. Is it identifying? Or thinking? Yejing secretly glanced at Gray and Zhao Danggong, and found that the two of them had retreated 10 meters away without knowing it. These two bastards. But it shouldn't be a big deal. Judging from the situation, this flaming dragon should just be passing by. As long as his requirements are met, there should be no problem. However, this is just his wishful thinking. Although Yejing is not enough for the flaming dragon to fill its teeth, the flaming dragon does not mind the trouble of opening its mouth. Buzz buzz buzz. The deafening dragon roar buzzed, and under Yejing's horrified gaze, the flaming dragon suddenly opened its mouth that spewed fire and dragon breath, and bit towards Yejing. Forget it, I'll know what kind of breath it is after I taste it. I can't just taste it casually. Such a close distance, such a rapid opening speed, did not give Yejing a chance to react, the huge dragon mouth pressed down from above, and the shadow covered his eyes. Yejing, be careful. Run. Gray and Zhao Danggong were horrified. If they hadn't retreated 10 meters, the flaming dragon would have eaten them. The flaming dragon's eyes were very calm, with contempt for other creatures, and calm with disregard for other creatures. In its eyes, only dragons are creatures, and other lives are all food. Run. Can't run. Yejing's whole body was stiff, his eyes were white, no matter how he struggled, his body couldn't move a bit, this is the difference in realm. His breath was locked by the terrifying breath of the flaming dragon, his body was stiff, his breathing was heavy, he wanted to escape, but his feet were like nails to the ground, and he couldn't move. Will it hurt to be eaten by a dragon? This is not the point. Nothing can be done? Just when he thought he was about to be swallowed by the flame dragon, a shock wave of heavenly sound suddenly shot from the right side, hitting the flame dragon's jaw, and forcibly moving its chin to the side for a distance. At the same time, with this interruption, Yejing suddenly found that he could move, and hurriedly jumped back a few steps to distance himself from the flame dragon. Then, he turned his attention to the direction of another breath that was comparable to the flame dragon. Master Anthony. Yejing was surprised. In the sky 100 meters away, there was a white-haired old man wearing a blue robe and holding a dark blue staff. The old man exuded colorful elemental energy all over his body, and dozens of energy balls of various elements such as gold, wood, water, fire, and earth were floating around him. When Anthony appeared, all the spiritual energy in the radius of several miles gathered towards him. This kind of elemental affinity was simply unimaginable. Hey, isn't this little Yejing? How did he almost become dragon food? Master Anthony floated down from the sky, floating about 2 meters, standing beside Yejing, smiling kindly. Yejing wiped the cold sweat from his head and smiled bitterly. This is not the dean's fault. He insisted that I go to the Kilin Mountains to put out the fire. Putting out the fire is fine, but he didn't tell me that there is such a big father coming. Roar! Roar! It's you again, human. The flaming dragon roared to the sky, and 2 hot dragon eyes spewed out of its breath. Its dragon eyes were full of anger, staring at Master Anthony. Master Anthony looked at the flaming dragon expressionlessly and said lightly, "Why don't you build a nest on Mount Everest and come here?" The elemental breath on his body became more and more intense, and colorful light emanated from his body. "Do you know each other?" Yejing's eyes widened and asked in a low voice. Master Anthony stared at the flaming dragon cautiously and said in a deep voice, "More than a decade ago, this flaming dragon came down the mountain to look for food and ran to the human city. In order to prevent the city from being damaged, the dean and I went to expel it personally. We fought for 2 days and burned 300 miles before we expelled it. Damn humans!" The flaming dragon suddenly flapped its wings, and the overwhelming flames came towards it, as if it was going to burn everything nearby. "You retreat quickly." Master Anthony looked solemn, and with a wave of his robe, Yejing and the other 2 instantly floated 100 meters away. Anthony was called the Master of Arcane, and this was not a lie. With a flip of his hand, a crystal-clear ice wall appeared out of thin air, with a chill and a flash of white light, blocking the flames emitted from the flaming dragon to the other side. Crystal drops, in the blink of an eye, the ice wall was melted several layers, and the originally dry ground was instantly soaked. Is this? The Master of Arcane fights the flaming dragon. 100 meters away, Gray was extremely excited. This kind of scene was so rare that he wanted to start a live broadcast. "Let's stay a little further away," Zhao Danggong suggested. Even though there was 100 meters and an ice wall between them, the temperature from the flaming dragon made him feel hot all over. "Eat you!" The flaming dragon flew into the sky, with anger flying across its mouth. It opened its dragon mouth and suddenly sprayed a dragon breath at the ice wall. Dragon breath is one of the most powerful means of the dragon clan. After it is released, the world changes suddenly, the temperature rises suddenly, and the ice wall is melted in an instant, spraying towards Master Anthony. "Retreat quickly." Although the dragon breath was sprayed towards Anthony, it was Yejing and the other 2 who hurriedly retreated. There was no way. The temperature of the dragon breath was comparable to that of the sun. It was so close that it almost burned the 3 of them into barbecue. "Ah! I can't bear it!" Zhao Danggong wailed, and hurriedly took out the golden shovel, cut through the space, and drilled in alone. "Wait for us." Yejing and Zhao Danggong were slightly stunned, and then they also went in. In the dark dimensional space, Gray suddenly took out a lamp. "Why do you carry a lamp with you?" Zhao Danggong was stunned. "Since I was isolated by you last time, I have been carrying a lamp with me." Gray shrugged and said, he looked around, his face full of disappointment, "I still want to watch the final battle, can't I broadcast it live?" "Of course I can." Zhao Danggong smiled and touched the crack in the space with a golden shovel, and forcibly made the extremely dark space transparent. Beyond the transparency is the outside world. Ultra-clear Blu-ray 4K? Such black technology, Yejing was stunned. "It's starting." Super movie, Arcane Master Anthony fights the flaming dragon. "Don't be so excited." Outside world. Anthony's robe danced, his feet stepped on the breeze, and floated towards the sky until he landed in front of the flaming dragon. He looked gloomy and solemn, looking at the flaming dragon without fear. "This is not the place for you, go back to Mount Everest." A burning sky dragon breath responded to him. The flaming dragon was a top-level semi-saint, carrying the golden sun flame, and could sense the existence of the hellfire from thousands of miles away. It could clearly feel the terrifying aura contained in the hellfire. As long as it absorbed the hellfire, its strength would increase rapidly to a terrifying level. There is even a possibility of entering life evolution and becoming the Fire Dragon King. This made it retreat. How is it possible? Humph. Stubborn. Anthony snorted coldly, his hands fixed in front of his chest, and a faint fluorescence appeared with the seal, and the dark blue ice and the dark red flames intertwined together. Compound secret technique. The compound secret technique that requires multiple practitioners to release was actually performed by him alone. Ice and fire. The ice condensed, and the flames danced wildly. Ice and fire intertwined and shot out from Anthony's seal. Boom. Boom. The Yang Dragon breath collided with the ice and fire, and violent energy fluctuations erupted. The powerful energy fluctuations impacted the area for several miles, turning all weak creatures into ashes. Good boy, it's a good thing we ran fast, otherwise we would be in this pile of ashes. In the dimensional space, Zhao Danggong was stunned as he watched the low-level monsters disappear from the outside world. If they hadn't hidden far away, there must be 3 of them among the disappeared monsters. The sky and the earth changed color. Anthony was like a fixed turret, with countless lights emerging behind him. The colorful lights contained countless elements and terrifying auras. There were Yang's blazing flames. There was ice that froze everything. There were violent lightning. There was heavy loess. Dozens of energy fluctuations emanated from Anthony's back, and elemental cannons of different colors blasted out, directly hitting the hard dragon skin of the flaming dragon. Bang 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 bang. The exploding sky burst into a dazzling rainbow-like light, and the powerful energy impact even shattered the nearby space. The light gradually dissipated, revealing the unharmed flame dragon inside. The flame dragon's dragon armor is 99% immune to elements, and even Anthony's attack of the same level will offset more than 50%. This kind of thing can't cause any damage to it. Anthony's face was gloomy and his expression was very solemn. The last time he faced the flame dragon was more than 10 years ago. At that time, it was he and the Dean who worked together to drive the flame dragon away. This time, he was alone. Not to mention slaying the dragon, it would be good if he didn't get slain. Unlike the flame dragon's true invincibility, Anthony was only falsely invincible, and he also had weaknesses. For example, the body. The weak body of magicians is common to the entire universe. The flame dragon swung its dragon tail and rolled between the clouds, and a faint low dragon roar came from the horizon. Roar. With a roar that resounded through the heavens and the earth, the flaming dragon revealed its ferocious face, tore its bloody mouth, and bit towards Anthony. The air currents in the air moved with the movement of the flaming dragon. The earth and space trembled with the random movement of its huge body. Damn it! It affected the space. Anthony waved his hand, and his whole body was wrapped in silver-white light. In the blink of an eye, the whole person disappeared on the spot. When it appeared again, it was thousands of meters away. Only 1,000 meters. Anthony murmured in a low voice that the flame dragon's impact on the surrounding space was too serious. Although his space power was not as good as the Dean's, it was still very easy to move tens of thousands of meters at a time. The impact is too great. He was so stunned that he didn't realize that he was already in danger. His current position is very close to the tail of the flaming dragon. Not good. Anthony's pupils tightened, and before he could continue to move in space, a huge dragon's tail was thrown onto his body. Boom. Hit from the front. Anthony's body fell from the sky like a cannonball and hit the ground directly, creating a huge pit. It's over. Isn't he dead? Isn't this dragon's tail capable of shattering mountains? In the dimensional space, the hearts of Yejing and the other 3 people who were waiting and watching OB suddenly jumped up, with worried looks on their faces. Should we go out and help? Yejing suddenly suggested, and instantly two shocked eyes fell on him. "Are you okay? Are you sure you want to help Master Anthony?" Gray said with a surprised look on his face. "Are you sure you are going to help, not to die?" Zhao Hanbang looked at Yejing with a strange look on his face. He had felt something was wrong with Yejing a long time ago. What was this person's brain circuit made of? Let's just stay on the fringe of OB. Outside world. When the dust dispersed, Anthony crawled out of the pit in a state of embarrassment. His robe was stained with stains, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. It hurt so much, but without giving him a chance to react, the flaming dragon fell directly from the sky, opened its mouth and sprayed out everything, destroying dragon breath towards Anthony. The flaming dragon's breath covered the sky and the earth, covering everything, burning everything and the air. Tricky. How tricky? Anthony secretly thought. There was no time to pause. When the dragon's breath was about to burn him, a 10,000-year ice was inserted between the dragon's breath and him. Roar. Fire dragon wave. After the dragon's breath, it's the burning flames. Before the dragon's breath was extinguished, scorching flames shot out from the mouth of the flaming dragon. A pseudo-flame dragon dragged its long tail, melting thousands of years of ice in the blink of an eye, and headed straight for Anthony. 2 hits. Anthony formed a seal with one hand and drew countless shadows in the air. Following his movements, wind, rain, thunder, and lightning came out, and there was no shortage of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth. Elemental blast. Bang 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 bang. The power of the light explosion is like a nuclear bomb explosion, rolling out colorful lights and exploding mushroom clouds. He took advantage of the element explosion and hurriedly moved himself out of this dangerous area. It's just that the space here has been blown up and is extremely unstable. He flashed 3 times in a row before getting out of this dangerous area. No. This flaming dragon is not something he can fight against alone. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 439. Anthony and the flaming dragon were facing each other. This was a confrontation between the 2 strongest men. Even if they fought for 3 days and 3 nights, it might not be possible to determine the winner. Unless there were extreme weaknesses and defects, it would be almost impossible to kill the enemy. If Yejing had faced the flaming dragon, he would have been killed in a matter of minutes. No matter how evil he was, he could not resist in the face of absolute strength. On the ground, all the monsters in this area of several miles were cleared. Thanks to the 2 of them, the remaining power of the battle killed countless low-level monsters. Except for the fast-running ones, the high-level monsters outside the South City were swept away, which greatly relieved the pressure on the South City. The spiritual energy of the outer world continued to flow into Anthony's body, and the flow speed was getting faster and faster. Whether it was performance or power, it had been brought to the extreme. Anthony had entered the combat state. The same is true for the fiery dragon. Its body is burning with dragon flames as hot as the sun, and the surrounding space is distorted. Its unruly dragon eyes look down at Anthony, and a sense of contempt for all creatures comes from it. Time is paused, and a man and a dragon are confronting each other in the sky. The tentative attack has passed. If no one stops, then the next is a real fight to the death. One person dies. Or slay the dragon. In the solar system, there are many creatures that have slayed dragons, but what kind of dragons are they? Either they are semi-finished dragons with rare dragon veins, or they are underage juvenile dragons, or they are low-level dragons that have not yet evolved successfully. Killing such dragons is not considered a true dragon slayer. Only by destroying a complete adult dragon like the fiery dragon, which is at the top of the solar system and has the strongest strength, can one be a true dragon slayer. So far, no one has been able to achieve this achievement. First, complete adult dragons are extremely rare, and there is only one on the blue planet. Second, the fully grown dragon is so awesome that even if the current Dean and Anthony work together, they are not 100% sure to complete the dragon slaying achievement. Perhaps, at this stage, only the world tree of the elves has the ability to slay dragons. The battle between the great arcanist and the dragon. Time stopped for a moment, and Anthony, who had accumulated countless elemental auras, took action first. Anthony floated in the air, holding a dark blue magic wand in one hand and raising it high. The superclass magic core embedded on the top of the magic wand exploded instantly, and a large amount of aura fluctuations appeared. As the magic wand exploded, the aura gathered in his body rushed out in an instant. Behind him, hundreds of magic arrays appeared, and the colorful magic arrays emitted terrifying energy fluctuations. Each magic array is an element. In the sky. In a blink of an eye, dark clouds were everywhere, and inexhaustible thunder danced wildly in the dark clouds. The dark clouds covered the sky, as if brewing a downpour. Strong winds blew for miles around, the sky and the earth changed color, and 4 huge tornadoes that connected the sky and the earth appeared out of thin air, covering the flaming dragon from all sides. The earth was shaking, the mountains were shaking, and the strong shock frightened hundreds of thousands of monsters 10 miles away, trembling one by one, not daring to move. The earth cracked open, and deep red flames gushed out from the dark underground. The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. A scene like the end of the world appeared at this moment. The aura from the outside of the southern city of the Demon City to the Killen Mountains became violent, and both the concentration and intensity of the aura increased accordingly. Even Yejing and the other 2 who were hiding in the dimensional space were deeply shocked by the scene before their eyes. Even if they were separated by a dimension, they could feel how terrifying Master Anthony's move was. Yejing stared at the space screen in amazement, and couldn't help muttering, "Is this the legendary forbidden spell level secret technique? This is too terrifying, right? Wouldn't this destroy the entire area?" "No." The well-informed Gray shook his head and said no. The forbidden spell level secret technique is not that terrifying. This is the secret technique created by the arcane master Anthony. It is a compound forbidden spell level secret technique that combines multiple elements. Zhao Danggong swallowed his saliva and said in disbelief, "Won't this attack kill the dragon?" "Not to kill the dragon, right?" Gray said uncertainly, "The elemental resistance of the flame dragon has been maxed out, and ordinary attacks have no effect on it. This level of attack, although effective, will not directly kill the dragon." Usually, Yejing didn't think that the realm gap had much effect, but now he understood. Even if he was given a compound forbidden spell, he wouldn't have so much spiritual energy to release. Even if there was spiritual energy released, he didn't have such extreme control. The gap is still too big. Not counting the cheating of Hades, he is still far from the real boss. After all, he couldn't even mobilize the spiritual energy between heaven and earth. Outside. As the forbidden spell was perfected, Master Anthony's face was pale and bloodless, and a trace of sweat appeared on his wrinkled forehead. His breathing became rapid, and his heart beat more efficiently. This was not the first time he had cast a large-scale forbidden spell, but it was the first time he had cast it so quickly. If he had been given more time, even a few minutes, he wouldn't have to work so hard. But now it was obvious that no one could hold him up in front. This might be the difficulty of a mage brushing a boss alone. It would be a tragedy if he didn't bring a tank. Condensing such a huge forbidden curse in a few seconds was a huge burden on his body and spirit. But now, the arrow has to be fired. Just in these few seconds, the flame dragon, which had been calm and despised Anthony, couldn't help but become serious. It felt the slightest threat of death. I don't know if it's out of the dragon clan's arrogance or out of confidence in themselves. The flame dragon did not choose to interrupt the spell casting, nor did it choose to defend. Instead, he directly chose to be tough. Okay. The dragon clan is awesome. Roar. The dragon roared into the sky. The flaming dragon raised its proud head, and with a dragon roar, a ray of sunshine descended from the sky. This is the ultimate blazing fire coming directly from the sun. Like a resonance, it seemed that the broken sun in the distant sea of stars shone a little brighter. The sun rolled down from the sky with blazing flames, and the 1,000-meter thick blazing pillar covered the entire body of the blazing dragon. This is not a defense, but an attack. I saw the flaming dragon suddenly opened its mouth that could swallow everything, and in one breath, it sucked the 1,000-meter blazing pillar directly into the dragon's mouth. The temperature that burns the sky and the earth shines in the mouth of the flaming dragon, and the extremely high temperature burns out the remaining air around it. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 440. The confrontation between the two most powerful men directly affected the Demon City planet fragments. The super-level monsters hidden in the depths of the Killen Mountains have emerged from the hellfire and set their sights here. At the same time, the Dean and other half-saints who were staying in the Demon City also turned their attention here, with worried looks on their faces. Is this Anthony's secret technique, and on the other side is the flaming dragon? Unexpectedly, the flaming dragon also came to join in the fun. The current situation is a bit unexpected. Little did they know that the Emperor of the Dark World was on his way. It seems that the emergence of hellfire and the aura of the abyss has affected the hearts of many important people. The flaming dragon sucked in all the blazing flames summoned from Tianweishan into its belly in one breath. The huge dragon's mouth contained terrifying energy that could burn everything. And this energy is aimed directly at Anthony. High in the sky, a rainbow hangs. Dark clouds cover the sun, heavy rain pours down, the thunder is still rolling, the ground fire is burning, and the tornado is rolling in the sand and getting bigger and bigger. The thousands of magic arrays that emerged behind Anthony shone brighter and brighter, and the colorful lights shone brighter than the stars. At the moment when all the spiritual energy around him was drained away, Anthony showed a sacred and solemn expression. Forbidden curse, multiple sacred element judgments. Moment. The dark clouds poured out and enveloped the flaming dragon. The extreme cold condensed, and the heavy rain formed ice crystals, which fell bit by bit on the flaming dragon. The thunder was fierce, and the deep purple thunder was like a thunder dragon, attacking from above and below, slashing straight at the flaming dragon. The ground fire broke out, and hundreds of fire pillars shot from below to the flaming dragon. Tornadoes as high as 1,000 feet swept across from all directions, all pressing towards the flaming dragon. At the same time, thousands of colorful arrays behind Anthony shot out in unison. Each array spurted out a nearly 10-meter thick elemental cannon. In an instant, the barrage attack covered the entire map. He is like a fully armed starfleet. The light of the sacred elements merged together, and in the blink of an eye, the sky seemed to be only black and white. And crimson. Faced with the all-round barrage of elemental bombardment, the flaming dragon no longer held up its strength, and suddenly spread out its dragon wings, covering all important parts of its body, leaving only a dragon mouth containing terrifying energy. Red light flashed in the dragon's mouth, and when the blazing flames reached its limit, the flaming dragon suddenly spurted out. Boom! In an instant, only deep red remained between heaven and earth. The blazing flames summoned from the sun were sprayed out in one breath. A pillar of molten flames hundreds of meters wide lay in mid-air and hit Anthony's thousands of array elemental cannons head-on. Boom 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 boom. A series of explosions followed, resounding throughout the world. Every explosion was accompanied by tremors in the space for dozens of miles around, and the ground shook. Every explosion is accompanied by the change of color of the sky and the earth. One moment it is colorful, and the other moment the sky is covered in red flames. Molten pillar rightward arrow rightward arrow rightward arrow rightward arrow leftward arrow leftward arrow leftward arrow leftward arrow divine element judgment. This is simply more shocking than setting off fireworks. This scene made Yejing and the other three people in the dimensional space stunned. He didn't even notice the cracks that appeared in the space. Yejing muttered to himself stupidly, "Isn't this too overbearing?" When Anthony and the flame dragon started acting in earnest, it was as if they were the only two creatures left in the world, and everything else was ignored. "When can I do this?" Xuanhuan looked envious, thinking that if he could reach this height, his life would be worth dying. "But before you die, you must set off fireworks every day, as big as this. Stop dreaming. You're still 1,000 miles away." On the other side, Gray looked at Zhao horizontal bar with a cold sweat on his face. "Are you sure their attack won't affect this space?" Zhao Xingbang stared at the space screen intently, and replied impatiently, "The dimensions are different, how can it affect it?" "Then look what's over there." Following Gray's finger, the two of them looked to the other side of the dimensional space. On the wall of the space, dozens of white cracks suddenly appeared. The cracks are widening and are about to break. Suddenly the scalps of the three of them were numb and their whole bodies were shaking. Gray growled, "Say it again, are you sure it won't affect you?" Zhao Xingbang had a cold sweat on his face and his eyes were erratic. "I don't know either. No one has ever encountered such a scene." The next second, the dimensional space could not withstand the pressure from the outside world. It crackled like a broken mirror and completely exploded. The raging energy from the outside world poured in without any obstruction. Quick defense. Yejing's eyes widened, and after roaring fiercely, his body subconsciously blocked the front of Gray and Zhao on the horizontal bar. If it were him, he would definitely not die. But if it were Xuanhuan and Gray, let alone a frontal attack, even the aftermath would be enough to kill them 10,000 times. The moment Yejing stood up, Gray also reacted. Without hesitation, he stretched out his 4 white feathers and wrapped the 3 of them together. Zhao was the slowest to react on the horizontal bar because he still had to spend time digging out the golden shovel. With the shovel in hand, "I have the world." 2 scratches appeared, and traces of several layers of space folding were blocked in front of Baiyu. The next moment, the forbidden spells of the flaming dragon and Anthony swept over. The 2 defenses were broken before they could even hold for 2 seconds. The several layers of space folding were directly broken without absorbing much energy. Without any shelter, the violent energy fluctuations directly exploded on Gray's white feather, and the flesh and blood were instantly blurred. After a short period of enduring the heavy blow, the white feather entered the automatic state and hid back in Gray's back. Yejing glared, he was the only one left. Before he could say anything, a sharp pain came over him, filling his whole body, and his whole body was shattered. The shield of the Orphan's Way is broken, and it will be refreshed in 1 hour. The vitality is in a dangerous state, triggering the extraordinary physique and recovering to a healthy state. This aftermath of the aftermath took away 2 of his lives. Can't you afford to play? If you two fight, what does it have to do with us? We are just ordinary spectators. The 3 of them were directly lifted out of the dimensional space, fell from midair, and hit the ground heavily. The moment they hit the ground, Yejing didn't even think about it, and grabbed Zhao Danggong's golden shovel and dug into the ground fiercely. Dig 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 dig. In the blink of an eye, a hole several meters deep was dug out. He grabbed a person with one hand and went directly into the hole. The energy storm raging outside was too terrifying. The space was broken, and now only the ground was safe. Only a few meters was useless. After the 3 people entered the cave, Yejing didn't pause at all and continued to dig deeper. Saving lives is important.